guys, so welcome back to Fatal Crime on Friday. In this case, we're going to be doing the case of Elizabeth Bathory, which I'm pretty sure most of you know anything about true crime. You obviously know who Elizabeth Bathory is, or at least have a decent idea who she is. And so of course, unlike most of us, Elizabeth was actually blessed to be raised in a noble home in either 1561 or 62. It's not exactly known, but most historians apparently say 61. She apparently had the last name Elizabeth, but we know her as Bathory. Her father apparently was a brother of the Voidbone, which is a military leader of Transylvania, and apparently one of the most powerful men. Her family was like most royal families you hear about, like back in the day. They were strong believers of keep it in the family to keep their bloodline pure. Elizabeth, obviously, because she's not like the first generation to like have the royals be like, oh, keep in the family. She suffered seizures, which, you know, in modern day is believed to be like symptoms from being an inbred child, because obviously, you know, if you're an inbred child, you're gonna have health problems. A treatment that they actually tried to use back in the day is that they try to get the blood of someone who didn't have the condition. So I guess someone who didn't have seizures and wasn't inbred, get their blood and rub it on yourself.
Boy, if you don't get
another treatment that they used also involved blood, because, you know, of course it does, but you had to take part of their skull, you had to crush it, you had to mix it, and then you had to drink it. So part of their skull mixed into their blood. So I assume that you're drinking the blood also.
I am disgusted.
In school, because remember, she's a noble, she learned Latin, Hungarian, German, and Greek. When she was 10, she was engaged to marry a man who was 15 at the time.
no ma'am. No ma'am. No ma'am. No ma'am.
When she was 13, she apparently birthed a child, and her fiance apparently was not the father. It was said that the father was actually a peasant boy, which
that's tea, actually.
obviously she's a noble, he's a peasant, this is allowed.
Unacceptable!
So the parents apparently gave up the child to someone that was trusted and like keep it, like never revealed that you're actually like of noble blood because your father was a peasant. Her fiance and her actually got married in 1575 because her family had a higher status than his. Instead of normally him having the higher status, he took her last name so he could have the higher status now, and he actually gave her a castle as a wedding gift. Her new husband would be the one to get the torture chamber built, and Elizabeth would be the one to tell him exactly how she wanted it, since the torture chamber was for her.
Wait a damn minute. Wait a damn.
Her husband was off and gone for work, which, you know, that was common back in those days. And so that meant that Elizabeth was also left over the affairs of the house. And speaking of affairs, she was also having several men over in the castle while her husband was away on work duties. But when her husband was home, apparently he was like participating occasionally in the torture, but it was not like as extreme when he was there because Elizabeth did not want to be judged.
Really, nigga?
They would not actually have kids for like the first decade of their marriage because I guess that's just how busy they were. They apparently had 4 children in total, 4 kids in total, right? But unfortunately, 2 of them died during childhood, which apparently is common. And apparently that was the reason why people had a lot of kids. So there was a more possibility, at least some of them would live to adulthood. Elizabeth claimed that in a letter that she had started doing witchcraft in order to better produce children.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
They said at one point Elizabeth ran away with a man, but like came back, and it's not known like who the man was or exactly what transpired between the two during the period that they were both gone.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
So obviously it got to the point to where Elizabeth was out here killing the servants, which otherwise she never killed them. She obviously wouldn't be featured on this channel or known as the most notorious female serial killer. She would have to get like the local preachers produce funerals for the girls, and so the preacher she would tell him that their cause of death was cholera, which I'm gonna have to put that down below. But apparently it's like this disease that was like really common back in the day. So she would basically use that as like her scapegoat as to why these girls were dying at such a rapid rate. He also sees this as BS, which I mean I feel like modern day I feel like we would too, of course. He somehow like sees past it and he's like, no. And she's like, if you value your life at all, you would obviously stay quiet, because she has power over him, because remember, she got that royal family, she got connections.
I will send you to Jesus.
Her husband at the time, they had been married for like 25 years at this point when he died in January of 1604, and his cause of death was believed to be from an illness he had suffered for the past 3 years. So this was like a long going illness, and then he just died. Normally people of high status, because remember he married a Bathory, apparently making him a Bathory, so he had high status, wouldn't be buried for like 2 to 3 months after they had died. So he wouldn't have been buried till like maybe April or May of that year, so that his family could like come in, because it was going to take a while to like for everybody to come in, like pay their final respects and then bury him. But Elizabeth was like we're just gonna have him buried right away.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Obviously with her longtime husband gone, nothing obviously was stopping her from the extent of torture that she wanted to fulfill on these servants. And so first thing she did, she had kicked out her mother-in-law and her relatives. Any servants that were actually loyal to the mother-in-law were actually punished. So I guess that's how you know she really didn't like her mother-in-law. Not soon after this, her brother, because apparently she had a brother, he apparently died, and so at the funeral, she apparently had attacked 3 of her servants, and apparently they had somehow died as a result to the brutal injuries that she had gave them. Damn! Methods of torture that she used apparently depended on her mood. She did burns, mutilation, biting flesh off, freezing or starving to death. Apparently a girl had her breast, one of her boobs basically cut off, and so it was cooked, and she apparently had to eat her own boob.
I am disgusted.
She allegedly put pins under the victim's fingernails. Female genitals, which of course most of these servants are going to be female, were apparently cut with white rods, and then their mouths were allegedly sewn shut if they complained. Some of them apparently took baths, but the baths had metals in them, and it would be rubbed against their back and chest. Some of them were only allowed to drink their own urine, so nothing else other than that. Some of them apparently had part of their butt cut off, fried with butter, and forced to eat it. The victim would start basically clinging to life. She would douse them with honey, and then basically wait for the insects to come get them, because obviously if they're doused in honey, the insects are going to be all over them. When it came to burns, apparently she would either use a little iron or a key. The girls, in case you're wondering, were apparently between the ages of 10 and 14. Obviously peasants, because again, it's the noble woman, so obviously she's going to have peasants to serve her, and were lured to her castle under the false, unfortunate promise of work. Apparently she had 4 accomplices who helped basically abduct the girls. There was one day where Elizabeth had hit a servant across her nose, and the skin, and so obviously she hit her pretty hard, and so blood came out, and so the place where her blood hit Elizabeth, apparently that made her skin apparently look younger, and so that's where the whole belief for oh, I need some blood to basically make me look younger. This is obviously before iron pills were invented, and remember back then, women, we lose iron every month when we have our monthly periods. So it's believed that Elizabeth was actually, had an iron deficiency, she lacked iron in her system, so that's probably why. The abductions got so bad, it got to a point where Elizabeth was, had her servants out in the streets looking for new girls to basically capture, and so their mothers or any female figures in their life basically obviously hid the young women.
Lisa, hide your kids, hide your wife.
That she either gotten bored. I also believe that she got a little bold because she started looking at the kids of other elites, so other important people, and so obviously she started abducting them. And unfortunately for her, the elites actually care about their kids, what the whereabouts for their kids, what their kids doing. And so they all started looking for similarities and what was going on, because all their kids were missing, trying to figure out a common denominator, and the common factor in all their kids' experience was Elizabeth. And so on December 10th, 1610, Count Thursday basically went up to the castle to try to see like if he could find like any of the girls that were up there. And so apparently someone else, so I don't even know where Thursday was at this time, found a girl being tortured and maybe, and he said like maybe like a deceased girl in that same room, and obviously the girl being tortured was being tortured by Elizabeth. And so obviously they basically were caught red-handed, and so Elizabeth and her 4 accomplices were basically brought in, and apparently they were all tortured until the full truth came out. Because Elizabeth was a noble, they did not want to bring attention to the family.
Really, nigga?
The trial was held in this secret little town in Slovakia, and the family basically tried to have the record sealed.
But shh, don't tell nobody.
There were no newspapers or anything to report what happened. Obviously, because it was going to damage the family name, the family did not want what happened to be released to the public. This is believed to be because any assets that they didn't want to take it away by the crown, or the crown canceling any debts that they may have owed her. Because remember, the Bathory family had so much money that the government owed them money. So if she was convicted of this crime, they could somehow like cancel it out. Elizabeth herself couldn't actually be at the trial for some reason, so they, as her punishment, they had walled off an area of her castle, and they had put her like in this little room. And so the servants, remember the 4 accomplices, the 4 women that had helped her, they all were sentenced to death.
Death to all of them.
It is believed that a possible factor was the fact that she had some sort of sexual gratification, whereas other people say that she was just straight up sadistic, which I honestly believe is a combination of both. Apparently there was a journal where it said that she had killed up to like 650 people.
Damn!
Her accomplices, except one, had like their fingers like taken off with iron tongs, and then their fingers were thrown into a fire where like a crowd of people like cheered.
Karma's a bitch.
Apparently one of the accomplices somehow got cleared. I want to say it's because there wasn't enough proof that she was involved, and it is unknown exactly what happened to her. And so fast forward is August 20th, 1614. Elizabeth complains to the guard that she is cold, and they tell her to go lay back down. And the next morning, she is found dead. Ooh. So Elizabeth apparently was originally buried in a church, but the townspeople were like,
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
They basically said have her relocated because she can't be buried here. Which, I mean, for good reason. She would be buried in an undisclosed grave in a castle of the city that she was born in. Obviously, this was going to be such a huge scandal to the country, so her name is, like, somehow forbidden to be spoken for, like, the next 100 years after she had died. And so, fast forward to, like, 1720, Father Lazaro Burrasi discovered the hidden trial record. With this, he brought the story of Elizabeth, like, back to light, like, back to, like, open view, and he published a book, like, 9 years, like, almost a decade later, but he only published it in Latin. 67 years after this, Michael Wagener first shared the story about Elizabeth bathing in blood, which again, that's one of the things that she is known for. And like it said that mainly started because of her hitting the servant in the face and the blood thing that I mentioned earlier. And apparently, in order for her to like look younger, like in order for the blood thing to actually work, at least in her mind, the girls either had to be virgins or nobles. Which obviously, if these girls are like 10 to 14. They should most likely, at least hopefully, still be virgin. However, apparently there was like a test done somehow, somewhere, and apparently liquid blood would quickly turn into a sticky liquid type, which obviously that's not the best for bathing. It wasn't until 1913 that we somehow see her actual charges, and nowhere does it say that she bathed in blood. It's believed that this rumor actually came from her being covered in so much blood, like while she was torturing these girls, that she might as well have just bathed in it. And that may have been just a misunderstanding, or to like they knew that and they just made it more dramatic as to why they say, oh, she bathed in the victim's blood. Theories that Elizabeth may have possibly been framed because of her wealth and status.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
So it hasn't been proven. Apparently it fits well with the history of Hungary, so that lets you know about how shady Hungary's history is apparently. And also, I did not research this up. I just happened to be on Airbnb and in the Colorado area, and apparently there's an Airbnb and a hotel room that is allegedly haunted that just so happens to be themed in the theme of Elizabeth Bathory, and I will leave that link down below in case you ever want to visit. Obviously it's not haunted by Elizabeth Bathory herself, but apparently there used to be like a mine there, and apparently like a guy died. So of course, who's to say if it actually is haunted? Who knows? You can go check it out for yourself. Obviously links will be down below. Links for all the research will be down below. And so yeah, that is the case of Elizabeth Bathory. Obviously I feel like this case was obviously a lot longer than all other cases. I guess we'll see depending on how it all comes out. And yeah, that's the case of Elizabeth Bathory, the most prolific female serial killer. And until next time, bye guys!